Welcome to the product session with Tally, brought to you by MetricsDAO. Get comfortable, and we are going to start in just under a minute.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Okay, let's kick this off. So again, welcome everyone to the product session with Tally. We are really excited to have you all here. And if you're here, do drop a GM in the chat. Today with us, we have Frizen, who is the head of marketing at Tally, who's going to be introducing the product for us, and as well as going to showcase how can you, as an analyst, use governance data. And before we kick this off, I would like to also give a little introduction about the organizer of this webinar, which is MetricsDAO. MetricsDAO essentially is a community of thousands of Web3 data analysts who are actively doing various analytics challenges that are available within DAO, getting paid for them, as well as going through various educational programs that we are constantly launching. So if you are interested in learning how to become a Web3 analyst, do ensure to follow us on Twitter and join our Discord server not to miss our upcoming educational programs, Book 101 Web3 Analytics, as well as 201 Web3 Analytics, as well as check out our analytics challenges if you already have the Web3 analytics skills. We do run a bunch of interesting sessions and workshops every single week. So as well, you might be interested in attending those. Right. So enough about MetricsDAO. Let's jump over to Tally. So Frizen is the head of marketing at Tally. And I'm going to give the mic over to you to present what Tally is about.
All right. Welcome, everyone. GM, so good to see you. I'm head of marketing at Tally, but I kind of, Tally is like a relatively small startup. We have about 14 people, and I'm one of the only non-engineers. So I kind of do all the things that don't involve, committing code. So I do community and BD and all kinds of stuff. And I'm also an active governance participant in the Ethereum ecosystem. So I'm a relatively large delegate at the Arbitrum DAO. In the Arbitrum DAO, and I'm involved in hop governance and help found a service DAO called Content Guild. So, if you ever have questions about DAO governance or on-chain governance, or you just want to talk like crypto Web3, feel free to DM me anytime and we will chat. So really appreciate you being here. I'm going to start by sharing just a little bit of context about Tally. It's actually a little bit more nuanced and technical than people may think, especially because I think like DAO thought leader Twitter kind of has a reputation for being like a less technical, corner of the crypto world. But in the case of Tally, it's actually quite nuanced and really involves like trustless systems at their core. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how Tally works and the traction we've seen today. And then I'm going to show off the product a little bit. And we'll go from there. And I'm going to pause like as much as possible for questions just to check the chat and things like that. But we'll also have time for questions at the end. So yeah, let's do this. So Tally, going to the next slide. So just on a high level, what problems does Tally solve? So it opens up on-chain governance. So if you want to actually, submit a proposal on chain to change the state of a DAO, historically that has really required, the ability to use the command line and write Solidity. Tally has made a no-code or low code, depending on your use case, proposal creation tool. And this allows anyone who participates in DAOs to create trustless atomic proposals with atomic execution. So let me explain what that looks like a little bit more. So on the right is a screenshot of a recent Uniswap proposal that passed but was very contentious earlier in Q1. Some of you might remember this. Deploying Uniswap v3 onto BNB chain wasn't contentious, but how they did it, like what the execution was like, was very contentious because all the bridges and their VCs that supported them wanted them to use their particular bridge. So with this proposal, you can the kind of life cycle of the proposal is it's created on Tally, and in the proposal is like the executable code for deploying Uniswap onto BNB chain. And so what that means is once a proposal is live for voting, there's a snapshot that's taken of who holds tokens and where those tokens are delegated to at the start of the proposal period, and anyone who has tokens delegated to them can vote on the proposal. And then if it passes, it can be executed like permissionlessly by anyone in the ecosystem, and that will actually deploy Uniswap v3 onto BNB chain when the proposal is executed. And so, not only have we made tools to make it easy to create these proposals, but we also have made it very easy to participate in the governance of the proposal as a voter. So the voting system on Tally, it relies on delegation. So it's not enough just to hold the tokens. So in the case of Uniswap, you would be holding Uni. It's not enough to just hold the Uni tokens. You have to delegate them as well. But you can delegate them to yourself, or you can delegate them to someone else, depending on whether you kind of like trust yourself to represent your own interests in the DAO and you want to make time for it, or if you have someone else you trust who you want to vote on your behalf, you can delegate it to them. And then, we kind of continuously update the state of the proposal. And as you can see here in the screenshot on how it's progressing, and then in the bottom right of the screenshot, you can see we have proposal status in a very human readable format. So you can see what the life cycle of the proposal has been, and then when the voting will end. So when you need to get your vote in order to participate. So this is like if I were to take a step back and kind of describe the overall DAO ecosystem today, I would say there are two dominant governance models. One is kind of using on-chain governance with Tally and Open Zeppelin Governor, which I'll talk a little more about in a second, as the underlying primitive. And then the other is kind of the like off-chain social signaling vote with multi-sig execution. So the most popular products there are Snapshot and then Gnosis Safe used for execution. So when you use Tally and Governor, which is the like underlying primitive, which I'll talk about in a second, the execution is trustless, and kind of there's this ability for the community to veto the execution if they don't like the way it's being implemented by voting against it. Whereas if you use Snapshot to get a social signal for who's in favor and who's not, and then you execute it in Gnosis Safe, the kind of core team who's on the Gnosis Safe, right? Like there's no ability to actually like control on the community's behalf, like what is getting executed and not executed. So it's just like an extra level of decentralization versus that kind of like off-chain voting plus multi-sig execution setup. And it scales to much larger communities being able to have input into that process. So I just want to talk a little bit more. This is just kind of the background. I kind of covered most of this already, so I'll keep going. But like basically, most of the larger protocol DAOs in the ecosystem use Tally for on-chain governance. This is just some stats. So hopefully this will get your juices flowing as an analyst. Like there's actually a lot to analyze here. Need to update this because now it's over $10 billion in treasury value with the Arbitrum DAO having recently launched. Tons of delegations, over 400,000 on-chain delegations have been made, 5,000 proposals created, 8,000 actions executed, and almost 100,000 votes. And there are 14 million addresses that are eligible to participate in DAO. So those are addresses that hold a token that can be delegated to create voting power in an on-chain DAO. And we also support, basically every EVM chain with meaningful activity. Oop, there goes my camera. Sorry, everyone. A little bit of live action for the participants. All right, we're back. We're so back. Cool. So I want to talk a little bit more about the underlying technology behind Tally. So Tally is just the UI, right? Like if you go to tally.xyz, it's really the governance interface, right? It's like a dApp for how you interact with the chain. And at Tally, like Tally, the organization, we're really focused, laser focused on like creating that user-friendly, scalable, very useful front end. And that front end is actually sort of decoupled from the underlying smart contracts or the like smart contract framework and set of primitives that power on-chain governance. So that overall framework is called the Governor, and it has 3 contracts that kind of like make up Governor: the token contract, the Governor contract, and the time lock. And this implementation Governor is supported by OpenZeppelin. So it's standardized in the OpenZeppelin libraries, and there's a bunch of cool, great docs and kind of like tools for creating governors, it in the OpenZeppelin documentation. It works with ERC20 and ERC721. So, if you want to use a fungible token for your DAO, like Uniswap DAO, or you want to use a non-fungible token for your on-chain DAO, like Nouns DAO, Governor supports that, and Tally supports Governor. So fully supported on Tally. And yeah, it's like a very simple modular framework that is battle hardened. And any of these pieces, the token, the Governor, and the time lock, can easily be combined with like other on-chain primitives. So an interesting example is people have started to like build DAOs that use Governor and Gnosis Safe together. So for example, the Arbitrum DAO, it has a governor that controls a Gnosis Safe. So the Arbitrum DAO uses something called a security council. That's kind of like, it's a 9 of 12 multisig that's there for emergencies because the product is still sort of maturing. If something goes wrong on the chain and they don't want to go through the process of on-chain governance to like ship a hot fix, they can use this security council. But the members of the security council on the 9 of 12 multisig, which is a Gnosis Safe, are controlled by the governor. So if they want to add someone to the security council, the DAO actually has to do it, right? Like the governor, you have to actually create a proposal to call the Gnosis Safe and change the signer. So that's just one example of how you can kind of like put these pieces together, like, and how Governor is cool because it is composable with all the other popular products in the ecosystem. Cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna like rip through these. Like I said, Governor is supported by OpenZeppelin. They have a really sweet contract wizard with 2 Z's, apparently. No, it's really only 1 Z. That's a misspelling, but it's easy to create a standard governor with like a low code tool on OpenZeppelin. And then that's just like a really simple framework basically. So there's often a voting delay after the proposal is created, then the vote goes live. You can customize that voting period, then the voting ends, and the time block generally executes the contents of the proposal. Lots of details on kind of like where the security comes from in this system, because the code on-chain proposals with Governor is executable. Like you have to assume this sort of like an adversarial system, right? So you need to build in these elements that allow for like redundancy and security if the system is permissionless and you can't rely on everyone being a trusted actor. But that's why we like blockchains. They make that possible. So the way Governor is implemented, you can also like build on top of it. and anyone can. So circling back to the point about Tally being the front end, like we're not the only front end, right? Anyone can build a front end for Governor. So there are other teams, doing that, like Boardroom and Karma, and then lots of other people that are, trying to build additional upgrades to the Governor contract. So these are some of the things that people are actively working on building on top of Governor: liquid delegation, quadratic voting, multi-chain governance implementations, multiple governors. And then you can even take, a Gnosis safe and have Governor be a signer on it. Like I said, there's a bunch of people building front ends, Boardroom, a bunch of tools in the Nouns ecosystem, DAO, and then teams that are working on the primitives and upgrading DAOs at the contract level. Cool. From here, I can go ahead and demo the product a little bit. Feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat about how Tally or Governor works. So far, I just see GMs in the chat, which that's what's up, GM. But if you have any questions, please jump in. But I'm going to switch to sharing my screen. So hopefully that works. And then let's see. All right. I think this will work. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I am going to work through some examples here. Tally. So if you want to use Tally, you can just go to tally.xyz, which is the homepage, and then click the Explore DAOs button, and you can see all the DAOs that are on Tally, including which ones have active proposals. There's a lot of them, so if there's a particular one you're looking for, you can search. So if I search Uniswap comes up, but I'm going to pull up a few DAOs that I already and a few examples of like parts of the Tally UI that I want to show off. So this is like another more recent Uniswap proposal, which actually I should go to a live proposal. So I will close this one and we'll check out whatever the active proposal is on Uniswap. Okay, the Uniswap Deployments Accountability Committee. Because this is a live proposal, I kind of have the ability to vote. One important note about this is the reason I can vote is because I already have a wallet connected to Tally that has the Uni token delegated to the address that I'm connected to. And I did that before the proposal period started. And so I have the ability to vote. About to do some live Web3 demoing. So I might have to sign a few transactions here. Hopefully it all goes smoothly. So I'm signing into Tally. Hopefully, here we go. And you can see that there I am, Frishin, got my Tally profile. So I'm going to check out the details of this proposal so I can see who's already voted on it, kind of progress against quorum, and then the details of the proposal. So it looks like they're transferring Uni to the Uni token from the treasury to this wallet address. So you can see these are all like the standards. This is like the social kind of standards for proposals in the Uniswap DAO, and then a summary of what's happening. Cameron from Consensus stepping down, and then Raf, who actually works at Tally, he's our CTO, stepping up to replace him on this accountability for committee for deployments. This relates to the I showed off in the first slide in the deck, this like super contentious proposal about deploying Uniswap v3 to Binance Smart Chain. And then there was this like whole fight about what bridge to use. And then they responded to that by creating this accountability committee to help evaluate like basically vendors for DAO proposals. And so, there's a bunch of stuff in here about exactly how it works, which is the best practice. Please explain your proposal and how that relates to what is happening on chain. So let's see. Oh yeah. So this is just like a summary of what's actually happening on chain. But you can go and look at the executable code if you want to fully audit what's happening. These are the people's comments who have voted for. Sometimes, the comments are like more insightful than others. But yeah. Oh, there's Yitong. He's a governance friend. He's excited to see folks up to this important role in the Uniswap ecosystem. So he's excited about it. All right, I'm gonna try to vote on the proposal. Oh, I'm a whale. I have 166 uni. Let's go. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for because I do want to add RAF to the accountability committee for deploying tools. So because this is on-chain governance, voting costs gas. And so that's important to keep in mind. But right, and right now gas fees are super expensive, but for the sake of this demo, I'm going to make it happen. Oop, doo, 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 doo. Hold on. One second. Live demos are always super fun. All right. So yeah, that is voting on an active proposal. So now I'm going to switch to a different use case, which is delegation. So here we're looking at the Arbitrum DAO, and we're looking at all the delegates in the Arbitrum DAO. So I'm going to refresh this page because I'm signed in. So here I'm signed in with my wallet address, which is Frisian, and I'm looking at all the delegates in the Arbitrum DAO. And so you can see, like, not only can I evaluate who they are, how many people are delegating to them, how many tokens they have delegated to them, 18 million ARB. There's 30,000 people delegating to Treasure DAO. I can also delegate if I want to my tokens. So scrolling down, I can see, more about all the delegates in the DAO, see who I like, who I don't. I'm going to try to find myself on here. There I am. Look, Frisian. I have 484,000 ARB delegated to me, which is cool. So I can delegate in this DAO, but I also am an Arbitrum delegate. And so, this is the Arbitrum DAO and kind of the delegation tooling that we support. So we've talked about voting on-chain proposals. And then we have talked about delegation. And then finally, I'm going to talk about proposal creation. So this is Content Guild, which is a DAO. It's like a service DAO for creating content about DAOs that I helped found. And so a lot of times in on-chain DAOs, there's some kind of proposal threshold. So this is like a spam mitigation technique where you don't because like this is like an on-chain permissionless system, like anyone could create a proposal. You don't necessarily want like literally anyone to be able to create a proposal. You need some kind of like spam or Sybil resistance mechanism in place, which usually takes the form of a proposal threshold. So in the case of Content Guild, it's an NFT DAO, kind of like Nouns, where the voting power is in ERC 721 tokens, and you need to have at least one ERC 721 token to vote or to create a proposal in Content Guild. And I do. So I am going to create a new proposal here. I think I'm going to have to switch. Okay, yeah, no, I'm already logged in. So I'm going to continue. And then I'm going to call this a test proposal. And then you can see here we have this like cool markdown editor where I can like, easily put in text. Oh, look at that. It's bold and I can preview it. Wow, it's bold. Cool. Add a preview image. And then, oops, sorry, I need to switch to on-chain. That's just an off-chain poll. And I need to switch my network to Polygon. Cool. So yeah, test, bold. And then there's a preview image. And then here's where I actually do the on-chain stuff. So we have this thing called an action for transferring tokens, which is completely no code. So I can be like, okay, I'm gonna target my own wallet address. Look, there is transferring treasury tokens to me. Matic or USDC is the other token in the treasury. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna send myself 5,000 USDC. You can see the preview. And then you can continue. I'm not going to actually submit this proposal because I don't want ContentGel to think I'm trying to rug the DAO, but I could. I can simulate it to see if it would actually most likely like result in a successful transaction. So simulation passed, so that I probably didn't make any errors as far as just like doing anything invalid with my transaction. I can save it as a draft, which saves it off chain, but then it can be submitted on chain in sort of like that state. Or I can submit the proposal on chain, and that will start the voting. So there you go. That is Tally. Hopefully that was a helpful demo to explain how Tally and on-chain governance and governor works. I don't see any questions in the chat other than GM, which is cool. GM. But yeah, if you have any questions about how Tally and governor works, please post them. One thing I will add is that we do have an API. So if you want to know what is happening, what is the current state of proposals across the ecosystem, what proposals are alive, how much money they're worth, how many DAOs there are, what's in the treasury, where delegation is, you can use our API to get that. It's probably the most developer-friendly way to get that information. So if you have any questions about using our API, let me know. We have API documentation and all that. Thank you, Bushu Tong. I appreciate the positive feedback there on the explanation. And yeah, I'll pause there. Anything anyone wants to ask in the chat, please do.
I'm also actually wondering here, whilst people are thinking about what to ask, I have a question for you. So how could our analysts support Tally? Is there some specific analytics that you are looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I'll like pitch this, take a step back and pitch an idea to you in a broad sense. So as on-chain governance grows, right? Like as more and more DAOs, adopt on-chain governance, that means that more and more of what happens on chain is actually controlled by DAOs. So just as an example, right? Arbitrum DAO just deployed an on-chain like Governor DAO and deployed on Tally, right? That just takes their treasury has $5 billion, maybe more now because their token's been pumping of ARB in it. They also send all their sequencer revenue from the Arbitrum sequencer to the DAO. So there's already like many millions of dollars of ETH that are controlled by the DAO from the sequencer, and that's growing very quickly. So that's like a very fundamentally like important part of the Ethereum ecosystem that is now like completely controlled by the DAO. Both the product that's generating the sequencer revenue that everyone's uses, like to upgrade the rollup, you have to go through the DAO, as well as all the revenue from that product in the DAO treasury is kind of being controlled via this governor. And I think like increasingly, even if you're not interested in DAO governance, like you yourself don't necessarily like want to vote on proposals and stuff, pretty much anyone in Ethereum is going to have an interest in what's happening in the Arbitrum DAO, because like if they ship some change to like the roll up or they decide to like leverage the massive amount of ETH that's being generated for the sequencer for some activity, like if you're an investor, if you're a trader, if you're a reporter, if you're whoever, you're gonna want to know what's happening there. And Tally certainly fulfills some of that need, like our front end UI, like you can go there and see what's happening, but I don't think we fulfill all of it. It's kind of Tally is kind of like designed for the operator mostly. So like the person who's actually making the proposal and voting and stuff. It's not necessarily designed for analysts. So I think there is like a product opportunity to use the Tally API as well as like other sources of data to create more of like an aggregate level view of like what what like sort of like what proposals are live across the ecosystem, how much money is in them, what the current state of voting is. Like you can get all this from Tally, but it's kind of hard, and some of it you can't get because again, it's more designed for people who are actually like doing governance things versus analyzing them. So I think that is actually like a pretty big product opportunity in the space that is like not well covered today. So yeah, that's like one pitch I would have to analysts is to basically like create that data source.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Also, if some people would like to learn more about Tally or connect with your community, what would be the best way? I see also someone wanted to connect with you and ask for your Twitter handle here in the chat.
Yeah. My Twitter handle, I don't know. Can I post in the chat? I don't know if I can. My Twitter handle is zero. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that I can do that for you right now.
Okay, cool.
As long as you say
my Twitter handle is at 0xfrisson. So number 0xfrisson. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter. And we can chat.
Okay, we see also another question here in the chat by Harvest Orlando. Love how your session is easy to understand. How can I get the ERC 721 NFT to be a part of the Content Guild?
Yeah, so Content Guild is contribution gated. So basically, we have an application form that you can fill out where you basically like pitch an article that you want to write as part of the Content Guild. And then the existing members of Content Guild kind of like vote like yes or no on that article. More in a social way. Like we don't use Tally for that. We just like talk on Discord about whether we want to publish that article. If yes, you get a contributor NFT, and that means you can create a proposal for funding to get paid to write the article, and then submit the proposal to get paid when you publish. And that's like step one. If you do that a couple times and do a good job contributing, you can get an editor NFT, which allows you to vote on whether the funding actually happens. So TLDR, first step is you can go to contentguild.xyz and it'll give you all the instructions for like how to join the Discord and apply to write for Content Guild. So yeah, maybe you could post that URL in there to contentguild.xyz.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question, Orlando. I'll also have to share the links to follow Tally as well as Frisson. So do go ahead and give a follow. And if there are no more questions, Frisson, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience and to our analysts watching us today?
No, thank you for coming. Let's talk if you're interested in on-chain governance. Wag me. Cheers. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Frisson, for your awesome presentation. It was very insightful and was great to have you here. And thank you for everyone for joining. And yeah, we'll see you in the future sessions. And do sure to check out Tally and see how you can get involved.
Awesome. Peace.